Well, good morning, Füsun.
Good morning.
I want to thank you for being here. I want to give you the welcome to our city, and I want to congratulate for the well-deserved recognition that you will receive on Tuesday in the name of Saha. Füsun is chair of the board of Saha Association. Saha Association is a non-profit organization based in Turkey that was founded to support artists, curators, and writers working in the visual arts from Turkey, helping them in improving their production and development environments, and helping also in their interactions with international art institutions and networks. In 10 years, Saha has supported over 400 artists, curators, and writers through art initiative projects in over 170 non-profit institutions in 39 countries. It was founded in 2011, and Saha, I think they believes in the importance of collective effort to create an independent field that helps to integrate Turkey art into the universal art ecosystem. Well, in my opinion, everything is very difficult when we want to change how things are. But even more difficult than finding the resources, maybe, is more difficult to find a person to lead the project. A person like you, like to give all your time, intelligence, and effort to the purpose. This is why it's a privilege, I think, to have you here and to talk to us about this interesting project. And I would like to structure the conversation in 3 different blocks. Just the first one, just to talk a little bit about you and your personal relation with arts. The second one, to talk about your philanthropic motivations. And the third one, to know in depth the Saha model. That for me is the most important part. So I want to start asking you, tell us your history. How was your first encounter with art? How was the first artist you met or the first art fair you visit?
My encounter started when I was studying in university. So I studied architecture in University of Fine Arts, which means it was all disciplines were studying, especially the first year, the introductory year, we were all in the same studio together. So it was my first encounter, and throughout the whole education, we were together, different disciplines. I was in the studios of other disciplines, artists, and let's say I was in the sculpture studio, I was in the ceramics studio. So we were interacting with each other, and we were helping each other. Naturally, the very first artworks that I owned were through those years. My friends giving me as a birthday present. They are still one of my very precious ones, still I keep. And then I did my master's also in the same school. And during my master's, I was studying in an architecture firm and doing my master's because in master's you don't need that much time in physically being in the school. And those years, with my very little earning, I started acquiring a few artworks. And the first few artworks that I acquired were, of course, by installments. I was paying in 3 or 4 installments. That's how it started. Soon after, I met Faruk. Faruk, more than 30 years ago. And Faruk was born in a family where art was in their central gravity because his father, exactly 50 years ago, started Istanbul Foundation for Culture and Arts, which started as a classical music festival. But then, now today, it is running jazz festival, theater festival, film festival, and the Biennale. So our mutual interests brought us together, and then we started looking to art together. We enjoyed it, and it's always nice to have your partner having the same enthusiasm. And we started traveling for art, but the very first travels that we did for art was not for art fairs, let's say. It was not those commercial aspect of it, but we started going to Venice. I think the first Venice was 93, Faruk, correct me if I'm wrong. And then the first Art Basel, if you're asking that part, was in 99, I suppose. So this is how it started. And İKSV, the foundation today is still a very important, it changed the cultural atmosphere, the cultural climate in the country. So it was a game changer. And apart from that, yeah, we are collectors, but on the other hand, our family also started the first contemporary art museum, Istanbul Modern. So the family was very much involved in all aspects of supporting art, let's say, and different forms of art. This is how it started, and we started as collectors, as just Jorge mentioned before. It was more local at the very beginning, but then seeing more and being exposed to more, we wanted to put them in the context so that they could be in dialogue with each other. And so an artwork created at this part of the world and the other part of the world, they most often talk about the same issues, and having them in dialogue with each other is a more meaningful way. And this led to the following story, I could say. So put it in briefly, nice. This is it.
In my opinion, I think all people, whatever their profession and to the extent of their possibilities, all people should have a social commitment. So I want to know, why have you chosen art as your main philanthropic cause? Why do you think it is important to support arts?
One would probably and very rightfully question why art instead of other very severe causes in life.
Health, education.
And I totally agree. And this does not exclude me from those areas. I'm also involved in many different areas that I'm highly invested in personally, my time, my energy, my efforts. And but why running with the flag in your hands instead of other causes like deep poverty, ecology, human rights? I totally agree. But on the other hand, I believe, I can give an example from your city and from your wonderful museum, Reina Sofia. And it was about 25 years ago, I believe. We were in Madrid. And we were very lucky. We were with a small group. We were having a private visit to the museum. And with that solitude and in silence in Reina Sofia, I was in front of that amazing mural by Picasso. And until that moment, of course, I knew everything about wars, how all information was there, how much pain it caused. I had so many lectures, I read so many books, it's all there. But until that moment, I don't think I felt that feeling was so strong in me. When seeing that mural, when you are in front of that mural, you feel exactly how wars cause horror and pain in humanity and how humanity is victimized. So that is such a strong feeling. So for me, art is a perfect tool to communicate other areas of concern as well.
Agree.
And many of you, I see friends who are working, using art as a tool for the causes that they believe. For instance, Francesca is here. She's doing something amazing, and she's talking about other causes through art as well.
Yeah, like a channel, no?
Yeah, so exactly. So art creates a dialogue, and art makes you understand others, other lives, other cultures, other opinions. And it is not only information, and abstract information or abstract knowledge becomes much more concrete. For instance, I can give another example. I'm very much concerned about climate change as well, but all science is here. We know what we are heading to. We all know that, if we don't care, we are going to a disaster. But because it's in the future, because it is not here and we are not experiencing it, we cannot internalize that problem as much. But an artist or a curator who is doing an exhibition around it could make us imagine how the future would be. So for me, art is a perfect tool to address other issues And also, as art itself, the dialogue between others and making people understand each other is a very important cause.
Totally agree with you. In La Suerte de Dar, The Lack of Giving, it's a book published by Carmen Reviriego, president of Callia Foundation. In that book, she put together talks that she had with different philanthropists from all over the world. And there is one Mexican philanthropist, Manuel Arango, who made a quote from Don Quixote, from the book, which is, "Consider, friend Sancho, that no one can believe himself better than another as long as he does not do more than another." Collectors often say that art is like a poison. Once you have taken it, it is impossible to get it out. But I think patronage is more addictive, if possible. Do you remember the first time you felt the lack of giving? Tell us a special moment that made you feel that all this was worth the effort. It could be from your personal experience or from Saha. Like a particular moment that made you feel all this, it was worth, all this work was worth it.
Maybe not in that specific area, but I can go back. I'm going back memories a lot today. I can give the first time, like only for giving part, the first time I felt that luck. It was the first year of my high school, and the very first weeks when the school started, our literature teacher came to the classroom and distributed some black and white photographs. And it was postcard size, and she distributed. On the photographs, they were beautiful, but the photographs, they were children in ragged clothes, sad faces. And after distributing that, she said, "You are the lucky ones. You are in one of the best schools. You have families protecting you and supporting you. You have warm homes. You have food in front of you. But these children are not as lucky as you are. And if you buy," and this is an organization that I believe, she said, "and if you buy 1 or 2 postcards," they were very cheap, they will have a shelter with the funds that is going to be raised through the sales of these postcards. And you would show solidarity with them. You would show that you care for them. But don't go to your families. Do it with your own pocket money, because you should sacrifice. It was strong. For a child, it was really strong. I was 12 years old, most probably. And so that day left a feeling in me. But it was also in my family. My mom was someone who was never at ease with her comfort if she knows that others are suffering. And from a very early on, this was something she taught us. So. And now I remember that those photographs were taken by a famous artist. So those were...
It was your first artwork.
Yeah, those were strong, those were powerful to give that message, because they were done through an artist's lens. And when you make it, you say that it is important to be being poisoned by it, but isn't it more important to be infectious? Yes, we are poisoned. I'm sure many in this room are poisoned by that Suerte de Dar, but I believe making it contagious, like in the pandemic, and being infectious is more important. What we are trying to do, giving only makes us better human beings, and this is what we are trying to do.
Very nice. Now let's get into Saha. I want to know everything about Saha. So let's start. How did the idea of creating Saha came up? Like, tell us everything. Well, I will ask you different questions, but let's start with this one. How did the idea of creating?
together with a few friends, they are here, some of them, we were in Tate's MENA committee, which is Middle East Northern Africa Acquisition Committee, 2010. We were founding members of the committee. And one day, some of friends were living in London, but from Turkey. Some of us were living in Turkey. And one day, one of my friends, Berna, who is here, I'm so lucky that she is here today with us, called me saying, Füsun, an artist duo is invited to Tate's 10th anniversary exhibition. And that year was a year that there was a small funding. In Turkey, we don't have any funding, any public support for contemporary art. Because what Axel mentioned about, royal collections, we don't have a royal collection. We have a heritage collection, but not an art collection, because it's mostly an Islamic country and we don't have depictions of human beings and else. So, and there is no tradition of public funding for contemporary art. And that year especially, there was a small funding because Istanbul was European capital city, so there was a funding. But those artists, the artists duo who invited, were promised some sort of funding, but the very last moment, there were some bureaucratic obstacles, and they couldn't get it. And Berna got this information that they need support. And what should we do? I said, let me call another friend who is in Turkey when she was not able to come. And I called her, and she said, whatever you two are doing, I'm in it, let's do it. And just in a few hours, 3 of us, provided all the funding for their transport of the work, production of the work, their accommodation, their flight, anything. So they went. Shortly after, another artist was invited to another non-profit exhibition. And the same case, 3 of us again. And then Berna called me, I'm coming to Istanbul, let's sit down and talk. And we said that, this cannot go forever. We are, and others are also being approached, but it shouldn't be our decision. And it should be under a constructed umbrella, and we should do it in an ethical way. Why supporting this but not the other artists? So we should think about a good model. And if there are so many collectors in the country, why not asking them to support just a part of their annual acquisition budget, let's say, and to provide some funding so that the artists from Turkey, either living in diaspora or in Turkey, who are in need of participating in international exhibitions, because we were always, complaining about, there are so few artists from the Turkey in international exhibitions. They don't invite the artists from Turkey, but we know it. Funding for institutions is getting less and less, and if for those international exhibitions, if there is a funding for production support, then it is much easier for the curators or museum directors to invite artists. But that support should come from local sources. Anyhow, this was the idea, and then we 3 of us agreed we should do something and talk to friends, and we should do it in a structured way. Soon after, we invited a few other friends, 9 of us, the first meeting.
9 members.
And the first meeting, was everyone agreed. So 9 of us founded Saha, and we said it should be a collaborative approach. And we started making research how to do it, what is the most ethical way to do it. It shouldn't be about our own collections. Art and philanthropy in art has some gray zones. There are many criticisms about what you're supporting. Are you supporting because of your own collection to raise the value of it? There are many gray zones, let's admit it. So instead of being very ethical and away from those that gray zone, we said we shouldn't be making the decision, and we shouldn't have any money to any power. So let's stay behind and give that power to the art people, art professionals. And also artists should be free. They shouldn't feel any indebtedness to us. That's also so important. We looked to different models, but what we did, we looked from the reverse. What we should refrain from. What are the mistakes? What we should eliminate. And we talked to many artists, many curators, the people in the ecosystem. And 9 of us, we were all talking to different people, and we met at the very beginning, we met very, very often. And those days we were physically meeting, and it needs more sacrifice to be together, more time. And look to different models, talk to artists, and ask their opinion. For instance, one of them, when we asked them, what is the ideal model for you for philanthropy in art? One of them said, silence. That stayed with us. And so we want to be at the very back. Art and artists are at the front stage. And institutions, let's say you are curating a biennial here in Madrid. Mm-hmm. It should be always a non-profit exhibition. And either you know about us, but we usually, if they don't know about us, we immediately send books and invite them to Turkey. If they want to make a research trip, we provide accommodation. We have a curator residency, so many people are staying there now. And we tell them, we are here to support whomever you choose for your exhibition.
So it's the institution who contacts Saha?
Yes, not the artists. So, and we want to provide funds for new artworks, not already existing, showing and already. So we encourage that. So it's an encouraging way of approaching the institutions. And on the other hand, creating an awareness is much more important than, not much more, it's maybe too much, but as much important than the monetary value of it. Creating an awareness and creating a community. So the first year, that 9 founders became 31. We were 31 members. And now we are over 100. And also we have some corporate support. And it's amazing because we are very silent. There are no banners for the corporate supporters. There are no, but it is genuine support, and no one is at the forefront. It's all about artists and art. This is, it is the solidarity is the main.
So we can say that you share this poison with these new initial members, and after that, a lot of them come after these ones. Very nice. And how it is financed, all this project?
Every member makes an annual donation. Okay. And there are members since 10 years providing that. And that is collected in Saha, and we get applications from institutions. It should be always, as I said, non-profit. It should be museum shows or, small institutions or the biennials and international exhibitions. And throughout the year, we accept applications. Our team, a wonderful professional team we have, and they are the ones who is running it actually, and they steer the budget, what is applied for. Is it a new production, or is it sometimes, some institutions wants to provide also some funding for their own costs. So we monitor them, and then our team brings it we discuss among ourselves, and then we bring it to our board. And the board just votes for it.
So the funding sometimes comes for each particular initiative, we can say. Something like that?
Excuse me?
Like when you have a particular initiative, one biennial, is then when you approach to the patrons for like support?
We don't approach the patrons for individual support.
Each like year, members from Saha Group.
Yeah, members from Saha Group every year at a certain time make their donation, and it is collected in our funding department, and then we spend during the year, and every year we meet the members and we tell them for what we have spent it. And every year we are monitored by an independent audit company. So for 9 years it was Deloitte, now there's someone else. So it's the same thing, an international audit company, and we put it on our website. So both in English and in Turkish, you can see how much we collected, how much we spent, and where did we spend it.
Projects.
So it is very transparent.
Yeah. Of course. And how is the Saha approach to the artistic community from Turkey? How your team approach them?
The artistic community in Turkey, first of all, is not a nationalistic organization.
Okay.
It is about having our artists in the international cultural dialogue. That was the first thing, and having our artists have a voice in the international cultural dialogue. And today, because during the time they have seen that it has shaped according to their needs. It's not shaped according to a model that we made top-down. Okay, this is the organization and we are doing this. No, along the way, it's always changing, adapting, developing. For instance, we started supporting publications. Along the way, it has changed a lot. For instance, we saw that independent initiatives where it is the incubation place for the artists, and it is so difficult for them to sustain their activities. So we announced a sustainability fund. Are we okay with the time?
No,
I'm fast forwarding. This is how we shaped, and we started funding for the independent initiatives. And also later on, we started Saha Studio, which is, we didn't have any residency since some time. In the past, we had a wonderful residency, and all the artists we are talking about today, we are seeing in the international exhibitions, they had passed through that residency in Turkey. And now, we didn't have it for some time. And from the artists, we heard that they need some time off without the pressure of the market, without the pressure of, producing something. In our studio, we started just before the pandemic, and they stayed there for 6 months. And 6 months, we provide all the necessary things that they need. We give also stipend that they spend. And all the production costs are also covered by the organization. So this also has been very well received. We now included an art writer to the studio. So 5 artists, 1 writer.
Right.
And the community is, because we are at the same distance to everyone, the same distance and the same closeness. And that's why the artists and the art community thinks that it's their organization. So they don't, it's not an organization top there. For instance, from time to time, some artists might approach us and say, you know what, this biennial is going to invite me, but they're going to show my already existing work. It's better you keep the funding for an artist who needs, for production. So they really
they
own it,
and
exactly. This is so important.
Saha has just turned 10 years old, and looking back, what do you think has been your greatest success?
Last 2 years, it is the sustainability. Last 2 years, keeping the family together was the real challenge. You know, because we have members, we have more than 100 members, there should be a balance between give and take. No members could give forever if they don't have some sort of a feeling that they have benefited through that. So when creating that model, we thought about it. What is something that they could get through Saha? Okay, you know, they're exposed to art, they know the galleries, they can travel, but what sort of a difference we can bring to their experience? So from very early days, we started experience-based art travels for our members. Every year, at least 2 international and 2 local trips we organize for our members. And they are so popular. We went all over, you know, we went to Inyotim or Naoshima, you know, all over the world. And those art experiences is not something if you knock the door and go. And wonderful private collections and museums, they open doors when you're a non-for-profit, and they make early hours without charging us anything. So this has been really creating a difference for our family. But last 2 years, we couldn't do anything. And it was really touching for us, for the board members, that they continued. Those 2 years, they didn't have any experiences, but they continued supporting. And we became a real family now, because after those 2 years, seeing them still there, and we are still over 100 members, keeping the family together is a big success. And also, the number of artists in the field. At the very beginning, you know, the same names were rotating. The same names were being invited because not many names were. And we started collaborations with Delfina was mentioned earlier, with Delfina, Rijksacademy, so many academies. And we sent our artists to those places, again, without the pressure of the market, and to work there. Rijksacademy, for 2 years, artists are going there and working in whatever medium they want to. It's such a big thing. And then, of course, we started having new names in the field. So the number of, you know, the different names, the diversity, I believe, is something that we are happy about. So yeah, and the studio is also something.
I agree with you. I was talking with some of the guests from the Ibero-American Patronage Awards, and it has been 2 years since the last one, and then it was all the pandemic, and they were telling me that were their last important event, and this has been the first one. And so we feel like a family, like a community, and they come here to, like your board, to visit all these private collections that opens the doors to all these people to share with them. So it's really nice. I agree with you. What advice would you give to an organization who wanted to follow your model in another country?
My humble advice could be, you know, there are so many different methods, there are so many ways, and I'm not at the position to make a big statement on that. But from our model, first of all, genuinity and sincerity. That's my, but it is something that easily a cliche, let's say. Those words are easily used. And transparency. Transparency is so important because we are using others' resources. And how we do it and being transparent about it is so, so very important. And creating a community, instead of, it would have been much, much easier for us if we were just 20 people, 10 people. Yeah. We would be having the same budget maybe. But then it would be, in that case, it would be just 10 of us. It doesn't mean that much to artists, but for the artist, knowing that no particular one is doing it, but the whole community is behind them, and showing solidarity with them. They are curious to learn from them. They are curious to visit their studios, to hear from them, and they are proud when they're in the international exhibition. For instance, we travel for their exhibitions sometime when they participate in important exhibitions. So showing solidarity, because it should not be owned by a certain group. It should be together. And
as you said, they should feel that they are owners from
yes,
the project.
Yes. And that, the one that I mentioned earlier, give and take is so important for the members. If you want to do it with a bigger group, there is a very delicate balance. You should balance what you give to members and what they give to the organization. There should be a balance. And of course, making this voyage with genuinely generous people like our members, like our supporters, both corporate and individual, making it together with genuinely generous people.
One last question, very short. What are Saha plans for the close future, for the next 5 years? You have a particular new plan that you're going to...
I cannot name a particular plan, but what I see is, again, after last 2 years, we were separated for 2 years, but we were globally connected. In the end, we were globally connected to defeat this monster. And I see more and more collaborations. So how we use these resources, also financial resources. But Aksel just told about making that celebration in Venice together with Tate is a perfect example of that collaboration. Or, for instance, during the pandemic, all New York museum directors were meeting every single week at a certain time over Zoom. In the past, they were, how New York is. In the past, they were looking to each numbers probably, and they were competitors to each other. No, for over a year, every week they were, and it was the big museum, small museum, Queens was there, MoMA was there, it doesn't matter. And they were, so collaborations and, making alliances with like-minded, kindred spirit organizations. What our plans is, we already had collaborations, but we are strengthening them. And also there are a few new projects that we are very happy. For instance, there is one, we started working on it. It is organized under the umbrella of an amazing institution in London. And it is going to be in 25 different countries. We will be connected to each other. We will be reporting each other, and then the outcome would be on the website. We will be feeding the same website with the same theme, with writers. Everyone is shaping it around the theme individually, but then there would be a massive information there on the website. This is a very exciting project. This is what we are interested in, and we will, of course, shape it according to the needs of the artists. During the pandemic, for instance, we announced a COVID fund so that the artists who were invited to exhibitions, but their projects were halted, stopped, and some didn't have storage for their works, and some wanted to finish it, but they couldn't get the funding. So that I believe over 35 different projects, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm looking to challenge if I'm wrong with the numbers. And for over 35 projects, we provided COVID funds. So always according to the
needs of each moment.
We shape, but next will be more and more, I believe, alliances.
Alliances, that's nice. Well, thank you very much for sharing with us your project, and I really hope this Saha model spreads in a lot of other countries to support their artists in the way Saha do.
No, instead of complaining, we need to make a change. Yeah, instead of complaining, we can try to make a change. And I believe the world in general needs a change, and together we can do that change.
I agree.
Together.
Thank you very much.